I'm not going to start there with the combat, but first we're going to start with a refresher of where we ended up last week. So,
Why is Mike
using the quick flashback that I was using. Alright, so we just start with this. This is something we stayed at the last time. Alright, so just as a quick Alright, everybody. Just as a quick recap of what happened last time, the story goes that a guy called Gideon Falstaff called you over because a murder just fresh happened in his mansion. And as such, he decided to ask for 4 of you fixers from the office to come over and try and resolve the mystery. When you got in, you discovered that there were a lot of people held at gunpoint by the owner of the mansion and also one of the victims of this attack, Cornelius Hargreaves, the famous mystery book author. And he was pointing his gun at 3 suspects: the maid, the handyman, and the cook. You guys went all over the house and essentially explored as much as possible to try and figure out who was the man responsible of killing Annie Hargreaves, the unfortunate victim of this night. And as such, you went
she has
through...
a token.
She's no longer
Yeah, she has a token.
She had a token
Yeah,
before.
it's gonna go back to being censored when we go back to the main screen. Because, yeah, this happened, and you guys tried to figure out what was going on. When you went into the library, the first thing that you realized is that there was something in the fire. Ken was astute enough to look into the fire and figured out that there was a little note in there that was actually the reason for the killing. Apparently, one person in the mansion was a little bit disappointed that he wasn't getting his recorded love. So, there was probably a reason why Anna was murdered, and it was because of this little rejection letter that they got. Then you guys went into the room, and you discovered a little something underneath the room, which was actually documents, stolen documents from the 7th Association,
No,
which explains...
We just know he had those documents.
Yep.
No, we do.
We just assume it's stolen anyways. We just assume it's stolen.
Yep. You assume it's stolen, and as such, you decided to essentially try and discover if there was anything hidden inside of the rooms. You thought that there was going to be somebody underneath, but instead you discovered something that now forces Hargreaves and Falstaff to essentially have you sign an NDA and probably pay you a little extra money for your silence. You investigated inside of the bathroom, and you discovered that there was a peculiarity to everything in here. Actually, Eugene was one of the persons that was mainly focused on investigating the wounds. You discovered there was a round entrance right through the neck of Anais that would essentially identify the weapon would be something round, piercing, short, but good enough in order to cross through the jugular and straight into the vocal cords and making a quick, clean kill. However, the murder weapon was still nowhere to be found until Toy actually figured it out in his head that it was probably an icicle. And as such, everybody started to figure out that there was odd things going on in the kitchen. For example, the freezer was actually broken, and it was making some nasty icicles, out of which you could deduce that the killer used one of those in order to stab Anais and essentially get rid of it. One of the last things that you guys did was that you rounded everybody else. Marion was busy with the interviews with every single one of the suspects, trying to figure out if they could crack under pressure and essentially see if they had something to say about each other. In the end, you figured out that some of them had some very strange ideas from one another, but mainly the one that you were focusing on too much was the cook. The cook himself proved to be a little bit more than meets the eye, probably one of the biggest liars of the room. You pressed on forwards, you essentially figured out that there was something going on, and in the end, you decided to call Hargreaves and everybody else.
There were blue birds!
There were blue birds. Yeah, one of the mysteries was that one of the birds that you were in the kitchen essentially just disappeared and then reappeared in the room somewhere else. However, you guys managed to
flew away.
However, you guys managed to fit the pieces together and essentially made a declaration that it was most likely... at the beginning, you kind of said it was Hargreaves, but it was either Hargreaves or the cook, and everybody realized that the cook itself could be the one behind the mastermind behind the operation. So you joined everyone together, you put them in separate places so that they could actually start here to what your declaration was. Let me just set this guys up together. And Ryonosuke was actually very eager to try and test this theory because he was starting to add a little more pressure into the cook. Even to the point where he threatened to stab him with one of the icicles. As soon as he left to the kitchen in order to try and get an icicle, he figured something out that was hidden in plain sight. The pasta itself had a little secret in it. He emptied the pasta, he put it inside of the drain, and he found out the last element of the smoking gun, a pair of bloody gloves. But as soon as that happened, a gunshot occurred on the other end of the street. This time around, what we saw was Cornelius Hargreaves essentially just shooting him down and laying him to rest for good. As Rio came by and everybody was settled on just ending the night after seeing Hargreaves essentially ending the shift itself, you instantly see that Kelvin, the cook, didn't actually die. He was coming back, and he was actually morphing into a very different being from what it started as. And that is when you instantly realize that he was turning into something bigger, and unfortunately something colder. And that is when you realize that you were seeing your very first distortion. Kelvin turned into this massive, this massive ice monster that is a massive ice monster with who essentially just grew in 2 times as the original size of Kelvin, and right now he is pissed. He is wishing for death, and your job today is to try and survive.
Granting it to him.
Yep. So now we go back to the future.
Present, I mean, you mean?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Someone tell me what the hell is going on!
Sorry, what did you hear?
Right? Are we rolling initiative? What's going on, Jet?
I'm sorry that you all had to see this, Fixers. But now I'm claiming revenge. I'm going to claim revenge. Starting with you, Hargreaves. You know the drill. Roll initiative.
Right.